Matthew chapter 23 and verse 37. This is Jesus speaking. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, you who kill the prophets and stone those sent to you. I want to go over this. Who is he speaking to? Is he speaking to the town of Jerusalem or to the people? Or what people in Jerusalem is he speaking to? To get that answer, in verse 37, let's go up a little bit. Let's take a look. Who is he speaking? Let's go up here to verse 33. You snakes, you brood of vipers, how will you escape being condemned to hell? Therefore, I am sending you prophets and sages and teachers. So, okay, he's talking about snakes, a brood of vipers. I think he's speaking about the Pharisees here. Let's go to the beginning of the chapter and find out who he's speaking to. Let's see. A warning against hypocrisy. Then Jesus said to the crowds and to his disciples, the teachers of the law and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. He is speaking about the Pharisees. He's talking to the crowds and to his disciples about the Pharisees. So you must be careful to do everything that they tell you, but do not do what they do, for they do not practice what they preach. They tie up heavy, cumbersome loads and put them on other people's shoulders, but they themselves are not willing to lift a finger to move them. Everything they do is done for people to see. Okay, so now when we look at this verse here in Matthew chapter 23, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, you who kill the prophets and stone those sent to you, how often I have longed to gather your children together. Whose children? The children of Jerusalem. Whose children? The children of Israel that are led by the Pharisees. So when he says, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, I was going to gather your children, he's talking about the people under the Pharisees, those children. I long to gather your children together, as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, and you were not willing. Who was not willing? Were the chicks not willing? Were the children not willing? Was Jerusalem not willing? Or were the Pharisees not willing? Because this says, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, you who kill the prophets and stone those who sent you. Who is he speaking about? You snakes, you brood of vipers. How will you escape being condemned to hell? Therefore, I am sending you prophets and sages and teachers. Some of them you will kill and crucify, others you will flog in your synagogues and pursue from town to town. And so upon you will come the righteous judgment. Right? Upon you will come all the righteous blood that has been shed on earth. You shed righteous blood, you Pharisees, you brood of vipers. From the blood of righteous Abel to the blood of Zechariah, son of Berechiah, whom you murdered between the temple and the altar. Truly, truly, I tell you, all this will come upon this generation. So when we talk about this verse here, a lot of people leave out this thing, I will gather your children. And this is why I picked the NIV. You can find it also in the King James. So when you talk about the context of what's being said here, a lot of people misconstrue this to mean that this is a way to say that God was not willing, or that God was willing, but he had to give in to your free will because the children weren't willing. But the truth is that what this is about the Pharisees not willing. The Pharisees were not willing. Jesus was speaking to the teachers of the law and Pharisees. They were not willing. It's not as if people were willing to find God and they thwarted the Holy Spirit. This is about the Pharisees holding back the people or making them twice the son of the devil as them with all their legalism. And we've seen this all over the place. So a lot of people use this verse to try to prove Arminianism. And oftentimes when they do that, they take the Bible out of context. But when you say, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, you who kill the prophets and stone those sent to you, and right there in verse 33, you brood of vipers, how will you escape being condemned to hell? Therefore, I am sending you prophets. Well, who killed the prophets? The Pharisees. I'm sending you prophets and sages and teachers. Some of them you will kill and crucify. Others you will flog in your synagogues and pursue them from town to town. This is what was happening to Christians, by the way. So Jerusalem, Jerusalem, you who killed the prophets and stone those sent to you, what is he talking about? He's talking about Pharisees. He would have gathered these children together, but the Pharisees were blind guides and would not have it. The Pharisees were not willing. It wasn't that they were not willing. It wasn't that God was not willing. It wasn't that it wasn't about your free will. It was about these brood of viper people here, you brood of vipers, you snakes, that made it a burden of legalism. Jesus was speaking to the crowds. Then Jesus, this is verse 23, then Jesus said to the crowds and to his disciples, the teachers of the law and the Pharisees, right? The teachers of the law and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. So you must be careful to do everything that they tell you, but do not do what they do. For they do not practice what they preach. Now, if we go over to Romans, right? If we go over to Romans, which we'll go to next in maybe another video, probably right after this, we're going to see how we can connect this to Romans and Paul and James. Thank you.